Okay, so now that you know how to calculate, or not calculate, now that you know how to figure out how many significant figures there are in a number, we need to figure out how do I figure out if I'm doing a mathematical problem, how many significant figures my answer is going to have. Okay, now this is the basic, this is everything that we do in chemistry when we do a calculation. When you do a calculation that involves numbers, you always need to pay attention to how many sig figs your number needs to have, okay? So the first thing that we're going to look at is addition and subtraction, okay? Your answer is going to have the least number of decimal places, okay? So the least number of decimal places. So we're looking for whichever sig fig past the decimal is the smallest, that's how many significant figures will be past the decimal, okay? So we're not doing anything in front of the decimal. When we do addition and subtraction, we're only looking at sig figs past the decimal, okay? So let's look at an example here. If I have 16.4532, can you tell me how many significant figures I have past the decimal for this number? If you said 4, you're right, okay? 2.14, how many significant figures do I have past that number? If you said 2, you are also correct. Okay, so now before I figure out how many significant figures I put past the decimal, I'm going to do the math first, okay? So if I was to do 16.4532 plus 2.14, my answer is going to be 18.5932. This is what my calculator is going to give me. Okay? However, since this one has 4 past the decimal and this one has 2 past the decimal, we're going to go with the smaller significant figure past the decimal, and that'll be our answer. Okay? So in this case, if this is my number, 3 and 2 are not going to be used in this value. So I'm going to end up with 18.59. Okay, so why do I do this? Okay, you can only be as precise as your most precise instrument. Okay, so if I'm looking at this example, this scale, because it's grams, so that means it was measured in mass, is telling me that I can measure 1, 2, 3, 4 places past the decimal. However, the scale that I use to measure this chemical can only read 1, 2 places past the decimal. Okay? Even though this scale is super precise, this one is not. Okay? So the rules of significant figures tell me that I can only be as precise as this guy. And that's why I can only have 2 significant figures past the decimal. Okay? All right, that's addition and subtraction. Let's talk about multiplication and division. Okay? Multiplication and division is different. For addition and subtraction, we just look at the decimal numbers. For multiplication and division, we look at all of the numbers. Okay? So, when I do this problem, I'm not just looking past the decimal, I'm looking at all of the numbers. Okay? And whoever has the smallest amount of significant figures wins. And that's how many significant figures your answer will have. Okay, so let's look at an example here. I have 4.81. How many significant figures? Hopefully you're thinking 3. Okay? 8.4. How many significant figures? Hopefully you're thinking 2. Okay? If I was to do the math first, my math would be 40.404. Okay, now this is where rounding comes into play. Now you need to remember, my answer is only going to be reported to 2 significant figures. Why? It's the smallest one, and I can be as only precise as my smallest sig fig. Okay? So, since my answer is 40.404, I'm only going to have 2 significant figures in the tenths and the ones place. Okay? However, I have to look at the next digit, so this 0.4, to see if it's going to round the 0 up or down. Okay? Now you need to remember your rounding rules. If it's greater than 4, so 5 and up, you round up, right? So you round up. Anything less than 4, you'll round down, okay? So since this is 4 and less, we're going to keep this 0 the same, okay? So if I was to write this number, that's how it should be written. However, based on the rules of significant figures, this 0 is not significant. So I have to make it significant by either putting a decimal, so it would be 40 grams, or by putting a line, 40 grams. Both of these numbers would work. Okay? Let's do some more examples. Okay, first thing I need to ask myself, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Okay, this is addition, so I'm just looking at the decimal. Okay, so I'm going to do my math first. To save some time here, I'm going to plug this into my calculator. Okay, so I'm going to do 35.7892 plus 1.37, and I get 37.1592. Okay, that's what my calculator says. But I need to figure out how many significant figures I need past the decimal. Okay, how many sig figs do I have past the decimal here? I have 4. How many do I have past here? I have 2. Who wins? Smaller value, smaller sig fig. Okay, so since this is 37.15, I'm going to need a number here and a number here. Okay, so the 37 is not changing. However, I need to see what the 9 does to the 5. And what does the 9 do to the 5? It rounds it up. So my answer here is going to be 37.16 grams. Good? Let's do another one. Number 2. It is multiplication. So I'm looking at all numbers. Okay? So how many sig figs in my first number? 3. How many here? 2. And I'm going to plug this guy into my calculator. So I'm going to do 4.24 times 1.3. And I got 5.512. Okay? However, I only need 2 significant figures because of my 1.3. Okay? So I'm going to have this number and this number. But I need to make sure that I'm not rounding up my 0.5. So I'm going to look at the 1. What does the 1 do to the 5? Keeps it the same. So this answer would be 5.5 grams. Okay? Let's do a couple more. All right, number 3. I'm going to add and then subtract. So I'm doing decimal here. Okay? So I have 1 sig fig past the decimal here, 2 sig figs past the decimal here. Uh-oh. Do I have a decimal past this 10? No. So this answer is going to have 0 numbers past the decimal. Okay? So if I plug this in and do this math, I should get 61.65, okay? However, I'm not having any numbers past the decimal, okay? So I need to drop these 2 numbers off, but before I do that, I need to see what the 6 does to the 1. So what does it do? It rounds it up. So my answer here will be 62 meters, okay? I don't know, I must have done a typo on your notes, but this one is exactly the same. Oh, yeah, this one is exactly the same as that one. So we're going to skip that one. Let's look at number 5. Number 5, how many sig figs are here? 1. Oh, first of all, let's identify. It's multiplication. So am I looking at decimal or all? I'm looking at all numbers. Okay? So this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 significant figures. And this one only has 1. Okay? So if I was to plug this into my calculator, since it's times 10, we're just going to be moving the decimal. So it should be, okay, hopefully something messed up with my computer. So hopefully we're at the same spot here. So what I was saying was, since this is times 10, it's just going to make the number 10 times bigger, so we're just moving the decimal place over 1. So if I was to plug this into my calculator, I would get 123.645 centimeters. However, how many significant figures do I get? I only get 1, okay? So the hundreds place is the only place that's going to have a number, okay? I have to look at the 2. What does the 2 do to the 1? Keeps it the same. So my answer here is only going to be 100 centimeters cubed because I'm multiplying my centimeters here. Okay? So that's it with this. So we'll have additional practice with this in class, and make sure you write down any questions. Thank you.